Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, September 10th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amitha Sharma. It's not what local crews needed, a new fire near homes, but they got it. And we'll show you that firefight in a moment. First, though, the large and destructive 17,000-acre Valley Fire is still burning for a sixth hard-fought day. The East County fire has now burned at least 30 homes and dozens of outbuildings, forcing widespread evacuations. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live with the challenges evacuees are facing and the new resources to help. Matt, what can you tell us?
Amitha, 6 days into this firefight, evacuation orders are still in effect out here in the East County area as crews work to mop up hotspots and get a better containment on this fire. Now, that means road closures, as you can see out here. This is the corner of Lyons Valley Road and Hoppa-Toole Road. As you can see, CHP out here only letting in emergency crews. And now, while some have been allowed back inside their homes these last few days, many of these closures are still in place, frustrating locals trying to get home.
We've just been waiting to hear whether or not we can go back because kids miss home. We miss home.
Rafael Naranjo lives in Carvaker, one of the first communities hit by the fast-moving Valley Fire.
So lots of ash everywhere, lots of smoke. It would just be like just black smoke all in the sky. You couldn't really see anything. The airplanes were coming overhead and they'd drop all the pink retardant. Then the sky would turn this crazy black and red color. You feel like, it's the apocalypse or something like that. You're like, oh man, this is it,
Naranjo piled his wife and 3 kids inside a truck, but with so many people trying to get out at once, the road to get out was blocked.
We were stuck. And, thanks to the firefighters, it was just like, I knew they were going to do their job and try to, get us out of there. So wasn't really worried.
His truck got covered in fire retardant, but he and his family made it out and are now staying at a hotel.
Yeah, and I'm smiling now because I'm happy we're alive, but that was crazy when it happened. That was just, the only thing I could do is, me and my wife were just just stay as calm as possible, pretend like nothing's happening so the kids don't freak out because we don't want them to be traumatized about it.
But now he's facing a new problem. Some road closures near evacuation zones are still in effect now 6 days after this fire started, and those who did evacuate can't get back home.
It's frustrating as heck, but it's understandable. If there were to be something to reflash or anything like that, I don't want to have to put my family through that all over again. As far as what I've heard, the house is still there, the property's still there.
Fire officials say crews are stretched thin and they need to keep roads clear in case of flare-ups. Residents still inside the evacuation zones are being told if they leave, they cannot come back. So all week, people have been meeting up with friends and family members near the closures to get desperately needed supplies.
Any kind of type of food that we can actually cook now that we got power on yesterday evening. That we lost. We lost quite a bit of food. We were without power for about 4 days.
Richard Powell met up with his son today for a supply exchange near Hoppa-Toole Valley. He says without a doubt, first responders saved his home and his life, but he just wishes he was now free to come and go from his property.
We're really unhappy. The highway patrolmen are just doing their jobs. I'm sure it's stressful, but the fires are far away. I mean, you get pockets every once in a while and they'll immediately jump on it. And so we're just upset. It's time.
Now, the county is opening a local resource center this weekend to help people impacted by this Valley Fire. It's going to be at the county library branch. I'll give you the address right now. It's 1155 Vio Rancho, San Diego. That's in El Cajon. That's the county library branch at Rancho, San Diego. Here in Hoppa-Toole Valley, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Thank you for that report, Matt. And harrowing moments for some residents in Santee as flames came close to homes. The fire started around noon in a riverbed off Carl Carlton Hills Boulevard and Mission Gorge Road. The Sheriff's Department says some homes were evacuated and roads closed. Firefighters doused the 4-acre fire from the ground, and with water-dropping helicopters, a few people got out their water hoses to keep the flames away.
My neighbor across the street, she called me and we came home straight from work as soon as she called, and the firefighters had already gotten back here and they were fighting fires. My dad and my brother showed up. My brother's up there on the roof. He showed up and they just started wetting everything down and helping us pack stuff up, get our animals out.
Firefighters got it under control around 3:30 this afternoon. No damages or injuries were reported. The cause is under investigation. Large wildfires are still burning across California, Oregon, and Washington. 7 people have been killed and hundreds of homes destroyed. Whitney Wild has the latest.
Wildfires raging in California, Oregon, and Washington state turned from destructive.
And within minutes, our house went up in flames and nothing left.
To deadly.
We also fear that this is not going to be the only folks that we find deceased.
At least 7 people died after fires ripped through communities, leaving little but ash behind.
Probably most of them were running for their lives.
In California, at least 14,000 firefighters are battling roughly 28 fires under eerie red skies that look like movie depictions of Mars.
I'm sprinkling basically drops of water on my house trying to save it while this extremely crazy intense inferno is devouring everything around me.
Nearly 50 wildfires blaze in Oregon, charring more than 470,000 acres. The governor there says these are the worst fire conditions in the last 3 decades.
It was the scariest thing I've ever had happen to me in my entire life.
In some parts of Washington state, residents head back home to dig through rubble and test their strength.
Everything that we own over the past 20 years, gone.
Whitney Wild, KPBS News.
You can find all of our fire coverage online at kpbs.org, and we'll have our weather forecast and another update on the Valley Fire later in the newscast. Now to the latest on the coronavirus in San Diego County. Today, the county reported 4 deaths and 284 positive tests. 69 of those new cases are connected to San Diego State University. Today, the CSU chancellor announced campuses will continue online instruction in January. And an all-girls Catholic school in North Park moved its students to online-only courses. Just 9 days into the school year, 2 girls at Academy of Our Lady of Peace tested positive for the virus. Colleges nationwide are seeing spikes in COVID-19 cases, including San Diego State University. However, UC San Diego is holding firm in its plan to bring back thousands of students to campus later this month. As KPBS education reporter Joe Hong tells us, some students are concerned.
When the fall quarter begins in 2 weeks, UC San Diego will welcome back 16,000 undergraduate and graduate students back to campus. That's far more than other UC campuses. 12% of UC San Diego's classes will either be hybrid or in-person, and 7,000 undergraduates will live in dorms. In contrast, UC Berkeley will offer no in-person or hybrid classes and have 2,200 students in on-campus housing. UCLA will have just 700 students living on campus. UC San Diego officials say they feel confident about bringing so many students back because they've developed a rigorous testing and safety plan that includes twice-a-month testing for all students and staff and single-occupancy dorm rooms. Yet some students and faculty believe the reopening plan is doomed to fail.
I don't know what needs to happen before UCSD can bring students back, but I think that right now is probably not the right time to do it.
Daniel Hines is a PhD student in neurobiology at UC San Diego.
I think that if UCSD observes other universities doing more than we're doing and failing to avoid widespread outbreaks, we should be reconsidering the validity of our models, and we should be reconsidering whether or not, within the constraints that we have, it's possible to open safely.
On Monday, Hines sent an open letter signed by 600 students, alumni, and faculty urging the university to reconsider its reopening plan. UC San Diego officials, however, say they're confident the plan will work.
We've been thinking about this since the beginning of April.
Robert Schooley is an infectious diseases expert at UC San Diego who helped create the reopening plan.
We have to try to figure out how to operate our schools, our businesses, and our society in a new environment in which we're going to have a coronavirus looking over our shoulders for quite a while.
One undergraduate student feels reassured by the reopening plan and is eager to get back on campus.
I feel like the most important thing is you have to follow the guidelines.
Ariana Kubilian will be a senior at UC San Diego this fall. She said she appreciates the efforts the university is taking to give her a chance to get the most out of her final year.
For me, I just like that they're trying to give some resemblance of a college experience instead of just saying, no, it's all online.
The first day of instruction at UC San Diego is September 28th. Joe Hong, KPBS News.
UK-based biotech company AstraZeneca has paused its phase 3 clinical trials for a COVID-19 vaccine after one participant developed neurological symptoms. KPBS science and technology reporter Shalina Chatlani spoke with a San Diego infectious disease expert about what the pause means.
Phase 3 clinical trials are an opportunity for vaccine developers to see if there are any specific health concerns for patients. In this case, one patient in the AstraZeneca trial had an unexplained illness. Now a review board is investigating whether the illness is connected to the vaccine, says Dave Smith, infectious disease doctor at UC San Diego.
This trial they have this thing called a Data Safety Monitoring Board, a DSMB, and it's a group of researchers, statisticians, scientists, physicians who get to see the data unblinded.
And what the team is reviewing is a case of myelitis in one of the patients, a condition usually associated with polio.
So it causes this basically a destruction, or it kills a piece of the spinal cord where people could actually become paralyzed.
Smith says it's unclear whether the vaccine caused it or whether the patient already had the condition. He says he's confident that the company will do its due diligence as it ensures safety for trial participants. Still, President Donald Trump has said he wants companies to fast-track a vaccine for before Election Day in November.
I never thought we were going to get a vaccine by November 1st. And I thought that, I hoped, and it looks like my hope is borne fruit, that these trials are conducted in a very safe way. So we still have these safeguards, this data safety monitoring board that says, hey, we're going to look at it very closely, and if we see any safety signals, we're stopping it. We're stopping it and taking a deep dive.
Smith says the pause really just means the developers doing exactly what it should be, checking for safety and efficacy. In the meantime, Smith says it's really important for scientists to develop antivirals and other coronavirus treatments, as a vaccine won't be a catch-all solution to the pandemic. Shalina Chatlani, KPBS News.
A Sandag survey out today shows COVID-19 has had a profound economic impact on San Diegans. More than 70% of those surveyed say they have experienced issues with food, housing, utilities, or employment at some point during the pandemic. 2/3 reported either having their work hours cut, losing their job, or having to limit their hours due to childcare. 3 in 5 parents reported problems with distance learning. The survey included more than 3,500 people across the county. The city of San Diego has placed more than 500 people struggling with homelessness into housing since the beginning of the pandemic. As KPBS reporter Max Rivlin-Nadler tells us, the city cut through some of the red tape that existed before the public health emergency.
When the San Diego Convention Center was transformed into a homeless shelter in April, city officials saw it as fulfilling 2 urgent needs: immediate housing for those vulnerable to the COVID-19 pandemic, and to find housing and services for those who might not have had those opportunities before. And while the pandemic thankfully hasn't hit the city's homeless population as badly as many feared, the services and housing part of the equation has gone as hoped for. In the 5 months since the Convention Center shelter opened, 525 individuals have been housed. Officials say another 200 individuals will find housing by September.
How do we look beyond our normal comfort zones and stretch our resources differently?
Lisa Jones is with the San Diego Housing Commission. She said that the city and its partners at the county and state were able to accelerate certain processes and tap into new resources because of the emergency presented by the pandemic.
We are exercising the opportunity of a true crisis to leverage people to change, right? We have the opportunity, because everybody is feeling a different kind of urgency and pressure, to maybe break through some of those more bureaucratic roadblocks that now can be moved.
Dubbed Operation Shelter to Home, 43% of the people moved into housing have been moved into permanent supportive housing. Others have found temporary housing through the city or moved in with friends or family. Jones expects the city to receive a huge boost in its permanent supportive housing supply, as it acquires and transforms local hotels using a mix of new state and county money. While the normal acquisition time takes between 18 to 24 months, Jones expects the hotels to be purchased by the end of this year. That's also when the convention center, which currently serves 1,100 individuals each day, will also shut down. Max Adler, KPBS News.
San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer this week ordered that the city's controversial streetlight surveillance cameras be turned off. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says privacy advocates are celebrating.
The city obtained the so-called smart streetlights in 2016 with the goal of monitoring traffic patterns and improving transportation planning. But the streetlights didn't work that well, and in recent years they became a surveillance tool for law enforcement. City Councilmember Monica Montgomery says the mayor's decision to shut the cameras off until the city has regulations and oversight in place is what she's been asking for the past year.
And we have to hold our integrity high. We have to do what we say we're going to do. And in this instance, we need a true, strong oversight framework. And I'm glad that the mayor is motivated to get that done.
Montgomery proposed a surveillance ordinance and the creation of a privacy advisory commission in July. Those actions are waiting for a vote at the full city council. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
We are very concerned about the fire situation across the West and especially here in Southern California on a local scale. We're dealing with air quality problems, especially if you travel a little farther inland. A lot of this smoke is not being pushed anywhere. It is here, and it is a situation with poor air quality in many areas. We'll be a little cooler in some areas Friday into Saturday, closer to the coast, but a little hotter into the deserts Friday into Saturday. So there's a bit of a contrast in the trend here on a local scale. We wanted to give you an update on the Valley Fire, as other folks here have been here on KPBS, and the containment has increased to 32%. We're talking about the percentage of the perimeter that is controlled. So that's been some good news, but still nasty situation here. They've had over 850 fire personnel involved with this blaze, and more than 50 structures or outbuildings have been destroyed. The report wrap-up from the past 24 to 36 hours has been somewhat optimistic in crews being able to hold the fire back from populated areas, but there are still mandatory evacuations in place, and we hope that the crews continue with that success in holding the fire out of neighborhoods. The drought status, still extreme drought across the interior, but we are very dry locally as well. At least this time of the year, we just can't find any precipitation around. We're going to fall to 66 in San Diego tonight, 70 in Borrego Springs, 51 into Mount Laguna, and tomorrow still around 83, still warm in San Diego, but 101 into Borrego Springs. The weekend forecast, very warm and very dry still for us. A lot of the moisture's in the east, and that is no surprise this time of the year. So coastal forecast, still hazy sunshine with smoke around. Still warm tomorrow. We back down to near 80 Saturday and Sunday, but then we warm back up into Tuesday. Inland areas, 93 Friday, back to 90 Saturday, but then we're right back up to 99 come Tuesday. Very hot weather next week. Mountains, mid-70s for the next couple days, back into the low 80s come Tuesday. And the deserts here, building heat back up to 107, 109 Monday and Tuesday with a lot of smoke in the atmosphere. So be safe out there. We will make it through this, but it is a challenging time. I'm meteorologist Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
The VA is still searching for Vietnam-era vets who qualify for a new benefit. KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh says coverage for so-called blue water veterans comes after decades of waiting.
When the bill was signed in June 2019, advocates worried that the clock was ticking on Vietnam vets who suffered from one of the 14 ailments associated with the defoliant Agent Orange. VA Deputy Undersecretary Willie Clark defended the VA's decision to wait until January to begin processing claims.
6 months sounds like a long time, and it is if you're waiting. But we needed that time to
to scan deck logs. We needed that time to train our employees on these laws and the presumptions and the eligibilities.
Beginning this year, Vietnam vets who served on board ships as far as 12 nautical miles away from shore now qualify for benefits. So do their survivors. The same benefits already extended to those who served on the ground or in coastal waters from 1962 to 1975. The VA combed through ships' logs to find names.
We kept pretty good records then. I mean, it was the 60s and 70s, and certainly that's a while ago, but we can find them. That's why we've granted so many scores of thousands of claims.
The VA has granted 64,000 claims so far out of what the VA estimates are 500,000 people who may be eligible. Vets are being encouraged to apply even if they cannot see a doctor at the moment for the required medical exam. That includes veterans who may have been turned down before the law was passed. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Redlining was a form of discrimination used by financial institutions and others to deny services and loans in certain neighborhoods, particularly minority areas. KPBS reporter Tanya Thorne shows us a public art project reminding people of San Diego's own history with the practice.
With red washable chalk in hand, organizations working to improve the lives of people living in poverty set out to mark a 3D red line in La Jolla and Kensington to call attention to San Diego's legacy of residential redlining. Ricardo Flores with Local Initiative Support Corporation talks about the meaning of redlining in San Diego.
And you'll notice that the federal government was very explicit in telling lenders and others, these are good places to invest. Kensington, Talmadge, Mission Hills, La Jolla, these are good places to invest because there is single-family zoning, and that zoning essentially allows for those communities to stay exclusively white.
Volunteers passed out pamphlets to the public detailing the different areas that were once redlined here in San Diego. And in La Jolla, they began to mark areas once labeled as servants' quarters, where so-called the serving class lived.
Or a person of color, rather, in La Jolla at this time, this is the only place you were allowed to live.
The artist doing the work did not want us to use her name out of concern about legal action. She stopped her work when security guards at the Bishop's School threatened to call police. No officers came to the site. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
And KPBS heard from the Bishop School late today. The school says it was a misunderstanding and that security mistook the art project for vandalism. The school says it does not intentionally stand in the way of social justice demonstrations. Balboa Park's South Palisades is undergoing a lot of changes, and the Comic-Con Museum hopes to be a big part of that. Here's KPBS arts reporter Beth Accomando.
The popularity of Comic-Con International has made it impossible for many people to attend the annual pop culture convention. The Comic-Con Museum was conceived in part as a way for Comic-Con to continue its educational mission and reach people 364 days a year. Comic-Con took over the Hall of Champions in the Federal Building in Balboa Park back in 2017, and today the museum revealed a video of what it hopes the renovated space will eventually look like. Cox Communications just donated money toward an education center, but the full museum renovations may not be done till 2024. Another reveal at this morning's press conference was the steering committee headed by Chair Patty Roscoe. She discussed the museum's role in the South Palisades.
It's an opportunity for the museum to play a role in San Diego's economic recovery and its resurging tourism industry. We see it as a partner and contributor, breathing renewed life and energy to the park and city.
Melissa Peterman, Vice President of Development for the Comic-Con Museum, looked to what people can expect from the museum when it plans to open in the summer of 2021.
Imagine, if you will, within our 68,000 square feet of space, fan-sourced exhibits, meet and greets with comic creators, experiential cinema, watch parties, esports, cosplay, concerts, a retail space that offers the latest collectibles, and more.
COVID-19 may force the museum to change its official opening date, but in the meantime, the museum does have many virtual offerings, including the upcoming SAM, or Storytelling Across Media. Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
I'm Judy Woodruff. Tonight on the NewsHour, Western wildfires. We are on the ground in Oregon as major fires burn across the region. Coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
And now for an update on the Valley Fire burning for a 6th day in the East County. The latest numbers from CAL FIRE show it is more than 17,600 acres and 32% contained. At least 30 homes and dozens of other structures have been destroyed. KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman is live now with more. Matt, what can you tell us?
Amitha, yeah, crews are still working to try to get some more containment on this fire. They're not at 50% yet, but that could be updated overnight as crews are starting to make some good progress. So I want to show you there are still some evacuation orders in effect, though. This is the corner of Lyons Valley and Hopatool Road. Now, some people are being allowed to go back to their homes, but only a small portion of Hopatool Road, where literally we're talking a quarter of a mile area. Most people still haven't been back to their homes in about 6 days, so some people don't even know if their homes are still standing here or not. Many are just frustrated that they can't go back home yet. They say that they're definitely thankful for the CAL FIRE firefighters, for police out here, keeping them safe. They say without them doing these water drops, being on the front lines, they wouldn't be able to protect them. Now they just want to go back to their homes, but CAL FIRE officials basically just saying, look, hey, there's still not enough containment on this fire. They need to still come out here, put out hotspots, because keep in mind, all it takes is one small ember to start a huge fire. Here in the Hopatool Valley area, Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And thank you, Matt. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley. And by the following: and by viewers like you. Thank you.